Hello, special fans. Welcome back to another episode of Accessible Athletics. Today in this episode, we are interviewing a special guest. He has been on my show before, and I am very excited to have him returning for the second time. Author of the 3-book Apocalypse series, The Judas Legacy, and Special Olympics Calgary coach Bill Leesman joins me on my show today. Welcome, Bill. Thanks again for taking the time to come on my show today.
Thanks for having me, Damien. And it's probably been a year since we sat in the same room and recorded the last one that we were on.
So here's my opening question. So for those that didn't get a chance to listen, the first time you were on our show, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids that are in the Special O program. I lived most of my life in Calgary and Oregon, so coach a lot of Special Olympics and have a great time and love sports, and that just lends itself to Special Olympics.
Nice. And as growing up as a kid, did you play any sports yourself to get into sports? Because you said you love sports.
I played baseball. I played football. Those were the 2 main sports that I played. Today, as an adult, I play floor hockey sometimes and do a lot of coaching and still play baseball.
Nice. That's awesome to be that involved and still have time for the sports and stuff you want to do.
Well, you still got to stay active, and I know that you're going to have a lot of questions about staying active, so that's one of the things that's primary in my interest as well.
Oh, well, that's good. So let's start off then by talking about your book series. The first time you were on the show, you had only the first book out in your series. You now have completed the 3-book set. What inspired you to write The Judas Legacy?
Well, when I was in my 20s, I owned a bookstore, and I read a lot, and I always dreamed of writing my own stories with heroes and action stories and villains and all kinds of stuff. I didn't have the life experience to put together what I felt was a good enough story. I had an idea in my head about a kidnapping, but I didn't have enough impetus of where that was going to go. Later on, I worked in the numismatic industry, and for those that aren't familiar with that word, that is the study of coins. And I used to come across old coins and would wonder who had handled those coins throughout their history, throughout 1 or 2 or 300 years of history of that coin. Was it a good person, a bad person, a villain, a king, anybody? And so then I just married the 2 ideas of following some coins through their life and them being the impetus for the story.
That sounds very cool that you're able to use your experience working in the coin industry to put that into a story and a 3-book series. So that sounds very interesting that you're able to do that.
Well, I think it's pretty unique. I don't think there's been too many ideas like that. So I think that helps itself to stand out a little bit.
And that's what makes it interesting and stuff for sure. So out of all 3 of your book, what challenges did you face when writing the book series?
That's a good question. First of all, the biggest challenge that I found, because I'm not a full-time author, is finding the time. And I had to learn how to carve out time of my day to make sure that I could be disciplined enough to write. Writing the story came pretty natural to me. The editing part is more difficult, making sure that you get rid of stuff that shouldn't be in there and having someone help you clean it up. Probably the biggest challenge in writing or the whole process of the publishing of the book is getting the word out there. I think it's a series that is pretty entertaining, and letting people know that it's an entertaining series has been the hardest part for me.
Yeah, that's it's always hard to try to find that time. How long did each book take you from book 1 to 3? Like, how many years would you say for each one of them?
Well, I mean, the writing process to the finished product is, and then there's marketing beyond that. But each book took about 3 to 4 months to write the original manuscript. And then, of course, there's probably that same amount of time for editing and making sure that it's curated right. And then from that perspective, so each one took about 6 months to put together. And then, of course, you have the marketing and the cover development and all of that comes after that.
Wow, it seems like it's a lot of work and a lot of details.
Well, I always wanted to make sure it was a good product, so that was part of it.
Yeah, that's good because if it's a good project, that's what's gonna be interesting for people, right?
That's right. That's correct.
So out of all three of your books, which one was your favorite to write and why?
Uh, Again, that's a good question. I often ask readers who I know have read all three of them, which their favorite book was, and I often get a different answer than I would give. Of course, the first one, because it's the very first book that I ever had published, has got a special place in my heart. But as I got better at the process, I think book three for me was my favorite. At the end, it tied everything together, and I think that ended up being my favorite.
I can tell from that experience that from me reading all those books, I mean I liked all of them because they were all so different. Like they continued, but they were all like so different, just like in the setting and stuff. But book three, the ending was really different than like in the first ending.
Yeah, I mean, when I was done the first story, and again, I had the idea developed a long time ago. I had an idea for the ending, and I kind of got there. By the time we got to book three, I had no idea where that ending was going, but it really left me with a feeling of hope at the end of the story, as did book one. And then book two, the ending's a little bit darker, and it requires book three to, to end.
To end in the kind of the same
Yeah.
way, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's what makes it unique, which, I mean, it's cool. So the characters in the book are made up, and so are all the events that happen. But those events take place in real cities. How do you balance historical elements with fictional accuracy when writing the books?
Well, I'll bring in just a high level of some of the historical events that I included in the story. The siege at Masada by the Roman armies. The final days of the royal Russian family are in book one. In book two, we have Operation Valkyrie, which was the attempted assassination, or one of them, of Adolf Hitler. And then in book three, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. What I took was my historical knowledge of those events and then incorporated some fictional characters in them. And that lended itself to me allowing the story to follow the fictional characters along the path of real historical events. I think the big thing for that is it adds credibility to the whole story. And I've had actual people that have said, did those events really take place? And I would say, well, yes, as a framework, they did. So,
I mean, in real life, yes, they did.
that's correct.
And then they're just incorporating that into the books and kind of stuff in like fictional characters, though.
Yeah, and I think that from my perspective, it added credibility to the story.
It definitely made all three of those books interesting.
I'm glad you like that.
So book one continues into book two, and book two continues into book three, and they all have very different endings. Without giving too much away, out of all of them, which ending was your favorite?
I think that book one and three both end on a positive note, so they're both favorites of mine, but I would still say book three ended the entire story, and I think it ended it in a good way.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good way too. Like, the story ends, and then oh, okay, you know what happens, and it's still, I think, a good ending. That's why I think I have people at home, like my dad's like, oh, which ending did you like the best? And I'm like, I don't want to give it away too much because you haven't read it yet, but I'm just going to say book three. So that's why I find my favorite too. So.
Good. I've had people that have commented when I asked them which ones are their favorite. They felt that each ending incorporated into the next step, and so that did lend itself to a richer story by the end.
So you have now completed all three of your books in the Judas Legacy series. What is your plan going forward? Are you going to continue to write books in the future, or are you going to take a break?
No, that's a good question. I have decided that that's an area that I really enjoy doing. I carve out some time. So like they say in the movies, I have one book already in the can, but it's not going to be published for a long time for various reasons. I'm 3/4 of a way through another manuscript that's part of another series, and I'm hoping to have that published by summer of this year. So.
Oh, nice. So the first book that you said you have done, is it completely done, or is it still like a work in progress?
It is, the manuscript is done. The one that is complete, the manuscript is done, but for various reasons, I got to hold off on publishing until some other books come out, and then we'll take a crack at that one. The series that I'm working on is going to be really exciting. It takes place in Alberta, and it's an adventure, action, mystery series, and I think people will like that.
Yeah, that sounds nice, especially because, it takes place in the Rockies, because you got Banff, you got Canmore. So I think there's a lot of places that it could take place in Alberta that, would make that story very interesting.
Well, and I think there's a lot of readers out there around the globe that when they see Alberta, they don't think that it's an area that they really know a lot about. So having something that takes place in Alberta, I think, can be pretty exciting for some people.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's now turn to the other big focus in your life, and that is coaching. You do a lot of coaching within Special Olympics Alberta. As I understand it, you coach both basketball and hockey. How long have you been coaching each sport?
Well, I've been involved in Special O for over a dozen years now as a parent and then as a volunteer, and started coaching in basketball in 2017 with Team Alberta. And then after COVID, I started co-coaching in floor hockey.
Nice. And then as I now understand it, you are now one of the head coaches of a floor hockey team now too.
That's correct. So I'm head coach of basketball, head coach of floor hockey. Sometimes you get these things thrust upon you because the need is there, but I really enjoy both sports.
That's good. It's great to be that involved, especially because you played so many sports as a kid, so it's nice now to be that involved with it.
It's nice to give back and seeing the success of all different levels of athlete it's really a cool experience.
So each year, I'm sure there are new players that come into the programs, and yet others that move around within the divisions. For instance, the advanced division is very different from the novice division, and the pace is much faster. How do the players adjust to the pace of play and the varying skill levels?
That's a great question, and for those that aren't familiar with Special Olympics, you really need to come out and be part of that to see it completely. But I think I would kind of liken it to hockey. In Calgary, there's the Calgary Flames, the Calgary Wranglers, and the Calgary Hitmen. And all of them have different levels of skill where the athletes have gotten to. And so if you kind of relate that to Special Olympics, there are different levels in Special Olympics as well. If you took an athlete from one of the hockey players from the Wranglers and said, well, tonight you're going to play center on the first line for the Flames, they might make a few mistakes. They might not be able to keep up because they haven't grown into that position. We have the same thing in Special Olympics. The other thing is you have athletes as they get older need to go at a different level, and sometimes they'll go back down. Same thing that you get in hockey, where some Flames go down to the Wranglers and play for them for a while to get their feet back under them. So we get that in Special Olympics as well.
I know this year on our hockey team we had one girl who came from the novice.
Yeah.
And she tried one practice and said she wanted to go back down to novice because she didn't feel comfortable. And, that's okay because they all have different comfort levels. I mean, it is a different skill level than what she's probably used to.
Yeah, and it really is important that each of the athletes feels comfortable at the level that they're playing at. It just like the Flames and the Wranglers and the Hitmen, it requires different speed, and sometimes people prefer being at a different level than where they're at.
So is it challenging to coach with the varying skill levels?
It's not any different than coaching any other sport. Again, if we looked at the Calgary Flames, not all of the players are at the same level. You have top line, you have top six line, you have third line and fourth line players, and they all bring different skills to the game. I think the biggest thing for any coach, and Special Olympics is not any different, is to be able to assess all the players and to help. As the best way to put it is that the team is only as good as the weakest links. And so you help the weaker players or the newer players sometimes improve their skills, and therefore they become strengths on the team. And if you can help them find their strength levels, it's not always going to be someone who's going to score. Sometimes it's a defensive player. Sometimes it's a good passer. Sometimes it's someone who's just tenacious and gets right in there. So everybody's got their skill level, and as a coach, you're trying to assess where everybody's skill levels and where they can be most valuable to themselves and to the team.
And that's important too, because you want them to be comfortable with what they're playing and how they play it. So you don't want to just put them in and be like, okay, try and play. You want to make sure, like, if you see, oh, you're more comfortable on defense, okay, maybe we'll keep you as a defenseman then, and you can just be defense.
That's correct. And if we can help celebrate where everybody's strengths are, then they can find success in their game, and they'll enjoy the game much more.
That's what we want at the end of the day, is to have everybody enjoy it too.
That's correct. Yeah.
With respect to basketball, I understand that the Special Olympics Provincial Summer Games are in Grand Prairie this summer in July. Can you tell us a little bit about this event?
Yeah, it's July 11th to the 13th. It's going to be bringing athletes from across the province together in Grand Prairie, as you said. There's 10 sports. I've got a little note here so I can make sure I don't miss anything. There's 10 different sports that people can go watch. There's over 1,000 athletes, over 300 volunteer coaches and other volunteers in the Grand Prairie area that will help put the whole event together. If you've never seen a Special Olympics tournament, whether it's provincials or nationals, I encourage you to come on out and see the quality of athletes and the competitiveness of the sports from top to bottom in all 10 sports. It's something to watch.
And these athletes, they train very hard, work very hard. So the more people they can get to come and watch them, I think it better be for them, because they really, this is their time now to show you what they've got and what they've been training for.
That's correct. And what you've got is athletes that have worked all year, well, multiple years actually, in most cases, to become the best that they can be. And to come out and see their achievements is really something to watch.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. Are there any challenges as a coach with a high-profile event such as this versus a regular basketball season?
There's probably two main challenges that I see. The first one is that, again, if you've never been to one of these tournaments, just like in the NHL playoffs or any other playoffs, it's a tournament where everybody's energy and adrenaline gets much higher. The level of play becomes much higher. And so managing that is one of the key things. Also managing expectations. At the end of the day, not everybody's going to win the gold and go on to the next level. And so managing the expectations of those athletes to make sure that they're giving their best and not being too disappointed if it's not the result that they want. The other thing that is really important is that for some of these athletes, they've never been away from their families. They've never been with a team. And so managing those expectations as well of how they interact with the rest of their teammates is really important.
As I understand it, like for hockey, there's like some new players on a team. There might be new athletes in general. If none of them have ever been to a provincial game before, if this is their first time, and they're a little nervous or they're kind of unsure, what do you do as a coach to kind of help them through that to make sure that they can be comfortable while they're playing the games?
Well, it's communication with them and their families, and it's also having the leaders on the team help them adapt to the situation as well and to support them. So it's a support from all levels to make them feel comfortable.
It makes them as a team effort kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So what are you most excited about with these provincial games?
Watching the athletes do the best that they can. Often you'll get to a provincial games, you might see someone that has never been to one at that particular sport or that level of sport, and watching them go way beyond what they've done in the past, that is so exciting and exhilarating.
And I'm sure that's a great feeling for the athlete too, saying, oh, they just accomplished something new at the very first games. They won a gold or silver medal at the very first games. I can imagine how great of a feeling that would be for any athlete.
Well, I remember the very first provincial games that I watched my son play in, and he was in the novice level of floor hockey. And it was not a very fast game in particular, but it was the game that we knew. And then when we got to provincial games, the overall excitement, the amount of compete in all of the athletes and the coaches, it was just incredible to watch. It still sends shivers up my arms.
And you think you get to games, you're like, oh, because our games are fast paced too now. But then you get to nationals, it's like, wow, this is really different than how it is when we're just like playing on the regular season for us.
The athletes step up to a new level that you just have never seen for many of them. It's really exciting. And again, I would encourage people to come out and watch because they'll be surprised.
And I find it's very incredible how they adjust to that too, especially if they're from different divisions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
With respect to the other sport you coach, floor hockey, I understand that there was a tournament this year in early February in Edmonton called the Joey Moss Tournament. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, it's on February 1st up in Edmonton. And Joey Moss was a well-celebrated member of the Edmonton Oilers staff. And people in Edmonton will recognize his name. For those that don't, he worked in the locker room with the Edmonton Oilers for a lot of years. And this is a celebration. He was a huge hockey fan, huge part of Special Olympics. And this is a celebration of his efforts to bring awareness to the floor hockey program. Again, just like in basketball, just like the provincials, you will see another level of compete for these athletes. It's exciting. It's a one-day tournament, so we'll get up early and we'll head up there. But the excitement that is drawn for these athletes that have never been before, it's incredible.
Yeah. I'm sure that there are always new players that will be experiencing these types of tournaments for the first time. What advice can you give new players to help them feel more comfortable and more confident at their first tournament?
Try not to do more than what they've done in the past as far as what they're good at. The biggest thing is to have fun and to listen to their coaches and just enjoy the experience.
Because that's only going to happen not only once in a while, so.
That's right. The tournaments don't come every year, and so anytime you get in a tournament, you got to enjoy the experience and enjoy the friends that you have on the team.
What are you most excited about with this Joey Moss tournament?
Well, this is going to be the last in my understanding, it's the last Joey Moss tournament, and so watching the team that we've got become the best that they can become is always exciting. That's the most exciting part for me.
So you said last one, like last one ever, or just last one in a little bit?
No, they're changing the program. The sport is going to be changing a little bit. So my understanding is that this will be the last Joey Moss floor hockey tournament. Now, there might be Joey Moss or another tournament that is for the floorball tournament. But for floor hockey, this will be the last one.
So you got to enjoy this one then while we can.
That's right. That's right.
I understand that Special Olympics may be moving to or adding a new sport within the hockey program next year called floorball. This seems to be very different from the floor hockey we play now, which is a ringette style. If they add floorball, do you see any challenges or opportunities for the athletes in the program?
Well, anytime you change sports, there's going to be opportunities for some athletes and some challenges for others that learning a new sport. All of us have a challenge in learning new things, and this is a whole new sport that most athletes have never been experienced with. So learning the style, learning the rules, everything is going to change. That is both exciting and a challenge, and I look forward to moving forward with that.
It's always good to know the challenge too, and I mean they get used to it the more they play, like everything else that they do in life with them.
Correct, yeah.
So as you know, my show is about helping Special Olympic athletes live a healthy lifestyle. As a coach, I'm sure you have some helpful advice on this topic. You have been coaching within Special Olympics Calgary for a long time. I'm sure you've seen athletes who do not make the best choices when it comes to fitness and health. As a Special O coach, what advice would you give to those athletes who have a hard time staying active in their sports?
Well, I think staying active, let me back up a little bit. I'm a big proponent of cross-sport training. And so, for example, if someone plays basketball, it's a good idea in the off-season to have another sport that is different so they can get their whole body working. And it also keeps you in shape physically and keeps you active. So I'm a big proponent of that cross sport. As far as making the best choices, we all struggle sometimes with eating and not feeling like we want to get out and do things that are physically active or physically demanding. The best thing that I can tell people besides cross sport is to find a coach or a training buddy or other people that can help encourage you through those hard times when it does become hard, whether you're making nutrition choices or physical activity choices or just lifestyle choices.
And that's good too, to have a coach, because then that person, because you might get an athlete who is not very motivated, or they don't know how to start. Like they're like, where do I begin for making healthy choices?
Well, and all of us do better when we're held accountable by somebody else. It's just the fact of life.
Yeah. So with the provincial games coming up for basketball in the summer, and the Joy Moss for floor hockey in February, how are the athletes going to prepare for these types of tournaments, and what can they do to keep in shape so that they can do the best they can in these games?
Well, it starts with nutrition and trying to eat a healthy, balanced diet. Again, one of the things that we all make mistakes of is things like foods that maybe aren't the best choices for us. What we don't want to do is fall into a binge kind of activity where we keep that stuff completely out of our lives, and then all of a sudden we go on a weekend and we binge it all away. I don't believe in that. I think that if you have some foods that maybe aren't as healthy, moderation is the key, and making sure that you're keeping that moderate. The same thing with exercise and activity is making sure you put in a healthy exercise routine, staying active, walking, running, lifting weights. All those things can help in all of the sports, and it will help from cardio right on through to musculature and tone.
And even it doesn't even have to be long, right? It can be like get up for 30 minutes, go for a walk outside, and then come back. It doesn't have to be like a 2-hour thing either.
No, and sometimes that 2-hour thing, as you said, people jump in, especially in January, and they go, I'm going to do this in 2 hours, and pretty soon it becomes 1 hour, and pretty soon it becomes 0 hours because you burnt out. You're better off saying, well, you know what, I'm going to do 20 to 30 minutes every day. It's something that I can fit into the schedule. It's something that I can live with from a tired perspective or an energy perspective. And so saying 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day and putting a routine, I think that is much more beneficial than not.
And I think that'll help motivate a lot of athletes too to make those healthier choices.
Yeah, it's easier for all of us, and the Special Olympics athletes are no different.
What advice can you give to someone who wants to improve their fitness?
Find a coach. Depending on what level of fitness you want, whether it's in a team sport or a non-team sport, finding a coach at all different levels to help you. Your team coach might help, but also finding a fitness coach can help. Those are all things, or someone who's just got the knowledge to help you through making sure that you're fit and toned and your diet is good.
Yeah, and I think that's good advice that everybody can use too as well.
Yeah, it's not for special O athletes, it's for everybody.
It can be hard sometimes to keep up with fitness during the off-season. What can athletes do to stay fit and active during the off-season so they can return healthy and fit?
Again, if you have an opportunity to join another sport that fits in that off-season mode, that works. Beyond that, there's lots of gyms in town that you could join, and if that's not an option for you, there's lots of exercise programs that you can do in your living room, even if you don't have a treadmill or the equipment yourself. There's lots of things that you can do. There's yoga that you could do. It's a great sport. There's weights. You can buy some weights and lift weights. There's some different body exercise that you can do. So everybody's got an opportunity to stay healthy if they want to.
And I think that's good for everybody too. For somebody who plays hockey, but then there's the off season, and if somebody wants to practice their hockey skills in the off season, what can they do to keep up with those skills so that they don't forget it for when they have the next season?
That's a great question. Cross sport is a good thing to help the body overall. If you want to stay on top of your specific skills in a sport, carving out some time in your exercise routine for those skills that are beneficial to that sport. So, for example, I'll pick out hockey and basketball, which I'm familiar with. With hockey, you can get a stick. You can practice your puck control. You can practice your shot with all kinds of soft equipment inside if you want. You can go into the backyard and do that. Same thing with basketball. Some people don't have the access to a basketball hoop. Well, you can still practice dribbling in your house. There's all kinds of ball skills that you can learn. So there are ways that if you're creative, you can keep your skills up in those areas that are most beneficial to you.
And I think that's good too. I found ways that I can stay. I practice during the hockey season, but I have this hockey net in my basement with these targets that go in the net. And I just take 5 or 4 pucks, and I just practice trying to see if I hit the top one, then I go to the bottom one, then I go to the top one, I go to the bottom one. And I just find it helps to keep up with consistency and accuracy too, because accuracy and consistency I think is very important, especially when it comes to hockey.
Well, I think that's one of the keys to improving any athlete in their sport, is that if they can take those skills and keep working at it. And I see that in your game, Damien, where your shooting keeps improving every year, and that's because you're working out in the off season and in the season to work on those skills that you're best at.
Because I just want to be, as most athletes, just be the best that you can be, right? And just try your best. That's why
Well, that is the goal. And competition means trying to be the best that you can be. So that's the name of competition. The root word is to make sure that you're the best that you are able to do.
Yeah. Well, Bill, this has been another great conversation. I have really enjoyed learning about your book series, and I hope our listeners enjoyed learning about your book series as well. Thank you very much for your dedication to coaching within the Special Olympics program and for your advice on health. I appreciate you taking the time to come on my show again.
Well, thanks, Damien, and I appreciate the opportunity in all regards to talk about the books is one thing, and also to be able to talk about Special Olympics in more depth. I think that people, they would be really surprised if they came out, and I know new coaches that we bring on board are very excited, and even more excited once they're with the athletes and working there.
And as Bill mentioned, if you can, try and get involved with Special Olympics. I promise you won't regret it.
No, you won't.
You won't regret it in the slightest. Well, there you have it, Special fans. Thank you for listening to another episode of Accessible Athletics. I'm your host, Damien Chiodo, reminding you to consider making healthy lifestyle your priority, and stay tuned for the next episode of Accessible Athletics.